Easy now, folks. I am at the local supermarket doing a challenge and having a wee bit of fun. Well, there's a serious element to it too. Basically, I want to see if I can fill this whole shopping trolley with aquarium hobby related items from the supermarket. So we'll start off at the food section because that makes sense. And some fish enjoy some fruits and blanched vegetables like that. Courgette or zucchini, you might know it as. Broccoli, that kind of stuff. So we'll chuck some of that in. Just around the corner, we've got these cool food containers. Obviously ideal for storage, but also for raising the likes of micro worms and grindle worms, stuff like that. And freezer bags, Ziploc freezer bags for our rapashi that we've made up and want to keep for a bit longer. If we are going to be culturing micro worms, we're going to need some of this dried mashed potato. Some people use breadcrumbs or cereal, but I like the smash. And I think we probably better pick up some donuts because shopping is hungry work after all, hey? Culturing microworms also requires some yeast. So we've got that in the baking section. And a bit further along we'll find bicarbonate of soda. We can use this to affect the pH in our aquariums, and I always use a wee pinch when I'm setting up my brine shrimp hatchery. I've got videos on all this stuff, as have a lot of people on YouTube, but time for a quick donut anyway. Right, next we're going to grab a pepper grinder. The idea is you empty this out, put fish food in it, and you can grind it up into smaller granules for the likes of fry and smaller fish. Not my idea. I first saw it on Sharpie's models and Aquatics, and I know Blake's got a video about that too. I'll link them down below. But I think we're kind of done with the food section, and we're going to head up the upstairs. So while we're just standing there, quick donut. Like I said, when we're making up rapashi, a nice way of doing it is to put it into ice cube trays, and then you can drop them out into a freezer bag and keep them for ages. I kind of like the flexible ones. I've got shaped ones, in fact, that I made a video about for a wee bit of fun. You can also freeze some fertilizers and push them in the roots of plants. So we'll throw that in. And then forks for holding down our vegetables. Personally, I prefer to use long metal skewers that you use at barbecues, but there was none. They only had these wooden ones. I just prefer them because they're longer, so you don't have to get your hands in the water, but oh well. Turkey baster for target feeding or pulling things out of tanks like fry or catching live foods. And then what fish room doesn't need towels? In fact, hold on. What fish room doesn't need loads of towels? Since we're in the homeware section, we'll grab a wee vanity mirror. Good way for helping your better fish to exercise, making sure they're nice and strong and healthy. We'll grab a kitchen strainer, so DKF does not get in trouble from Mrs. DKF anymore for stealing hers. They're ideal anyway for pouring water into. Breaks up some of the force, and it means you don't disrupt your substrate and plants if you're setting up a new tank or maybe filling one up from doing a big water change. In order to do our water changes, we're going to need buckets, and I like to have at least two. One is for pouring fresh water into tanks. The other is for removing old water. That means we can't get any contaminants from one tank into another tank if we're using separate buckets. I nearly walked past these, but I noticed them out of the corner of my eye. Measuring spoons. Sometimes need these for measuring out medication, and I certainly use them for measuring out my Seachem safe when I do a water change. Donut break. These storage tote containers, whatever you call them, ideal in a pinch if you need a hospital tank set up, or you've brought fish home that you didn't intend to, maybe need a quick quarantine tank. It's not always got to be a glass box. These are absolutely fine. Hella cheaper than a spare aquarium too. So our trolley's starting to fill up already. It's going well. Then I was looking for a cooler bag next, but I've just noticed these, look. It's like a cooler box. It's got the insulation now. Kind of cool for travelling up to the fish stores. Keeps your fish nice and safe when you're travelling back in the car, and the insulation will keep the heat in for a wee bit longer too. Super glue next. My go-to for attaching moss and rhizome plants to summer escape, as long as it's cyanoacrylate. As long as that's the active ingredient, that's fine. Always needing that, so I'll get a couple of them and some of these hooks as well. In fact, no, these command strip hooks for hanging our nets and our towels on. Especially the nets. They're one of the things you always put down and then you can't find 5 minutes later. If you've got a dedicated place for them, makes life simpler. Donut. I knew there was something missing from the trolley when I looked at it there. That's because I forgot to get the lids to the tote boxes. Ideal to take the lids, especially if you've got fish that might jump. Kind of prevents that from happening. Also keeps some of the evaporation inside the tank. Tote tank, maybe, or whatever. Right, next we're going to grab some of these microfiber cloths. One of the best things for cleaning the glass on the front of the aquarium. A couple of other uses too, but they are so handy. Definitely want a couple of them. We'll need some glass cleaner too. And while we're at the kitchen section, we'll grab some scrubbies or whatever you call them for cleaning, and you can use them for filter media too. And some green scourers. Again, they're good for culturing your Grindle worms. If you're not wanting to use the soil method, then these are just perfect. Gonna need some bleach for recharging our Purigen. And what fish room has enough sockets exactly where you want them. We'll grab an extension lead then, and we'll grab some plug timers. Ideal for turning your lights on and off automatically. You can get digital ones and analog, so we'll get one of each. I'm also going to get a torch. If you're wanting to look at your fish when the lights are out, or shine them into a breeding cave to see if you've got fry, comes in dead handy. In fact, we'll stick that back and we'll take a head torch instead. Means we've got our hands free too, hey? Onwards now to the healthcare department, and I was looking for Epsom salt. They're handy if you've got a fish that's a wee bit bloated or maybe stuck with fry, but they sold out. So I need to take this other bag of salts just for demonstration purposes, fill the gap in the trolley, which is getting kind of full here, folks. Next, we're going to hit the pharmacy because we're after some 3% H2O2, hydrogen peroxide. It's one of the best things I've found for attacking some algae, including blackbeard algae. And we can deliver it via a children's medication syringe. Target exactly where we're wanting it. Ever been looking about in your store cupboard for a media bag to put biomedia in and can't find one? Alternatives are available. We may need a pair of scissors to cut them down to size, and scissors come in handy for so many things around the aquarium. So a bag, a pair of them, a couple of them, and a whiteboard. Pretty handy for jotting down reading notes to yourself. Why can't I find whiteboard markers? There we go. Right, they're going into the trolley. We can even write on the side of tanks with them if we want to, but a more permanent solution would be a notebook, and super handy to have. Whether it be noting down when fry were spawned, when we dosed medication, or even something we've learned about a fish that we want to remember. No replacement for a nice notebook. We're coming towards the end now, but there's a couple of things I couldn't find. I wanted a yoga mat, which is handy for cutting up and placing tanks on. I also wanted some... Oh, hold on a minute. Here's a thought for you. Flowers for Mrs. DKF when she sees the credit card bill. Vital aquarium keeping equipment, if you ask me. Another thing I couldn't find was the pink stuff. Did a video on this last week. Superb for removing lime scale. I couldn't find pillow batting to use as filter media and a few other bits. However, I think we've done a good job. And there we go. That's a pretty full looking trolley if you ask me. Few gaps, but remember we missed a couple of items, and I've probably missed stuff myself. If you can think of anything I have missed that you can grab from a supermarket, mention down below. But I enjoyed the challenge. Well, the challenge I set myself anyway. Added it up as I went along, 186 quid, so maybe stuff you'd normally accumulate over time. However, I've already got it all, so I've got to go and put it all back now. Later.